What is up, Bearded Tog people? Yeah, that's 2 weeks in a row using an intro. I don't really know what's up. But today's kind of a fun episode. We're going to do Ask Me Anything. So I asked folks on Instagram and in the Facebook group their questions about business, life, photography, etc. And they could ask anything they wanted. And so I am just going to run through all of those today. We've got questions about editing workflow, staying focused, SEO, LLC versus sole proprietorship. So lots of fun questions. Going to be a fun episode. But seriously, if you ever have a question you want to be considered for an AMA, definitely contact me over Instagram. We'll screenshot it and we'll put it in the next AMA episode. But today is the very first one, and we're super excited about it. So here we go. So our first question comes from my buddy Jessica, who is actually one of my mentees. So she's in the mentorship program for Mace Photography and the Bearded Tog, and she is just killing it right now. We've done classes on business and branding, and then at the same time, we've also done some stuff with her off-camera flash use and shooting in reception, so really fun. Just a little plug for her, and she is killing it right now. So Jessica asks a few questions, and so I'm just going to go through all of them. What is your editing workflow to delivery? Example, upload to Lightroom. Do you save with the program to resize images, watermark, upload to blog? How do you do it? So I'm going to kind of outline my workflow as much as I can. It's a little bit easier seen than done. I don't know why I went Southern there, but it is what it is. We're leaving it in. And so my workflow essentially is I shoot on 2 cameras. And so I come home from the wedding. I put those 2 cards into my card reader. I import in Lightroom. There's a YouTube video on how to import 2 cards at the same time via Lightroom if you have a reader, or you can just add them to a folder. That's totally fine. And then I render previews, smart previews, and standard previews. And that takes a while. So I usually go to bed after that, just let that upload, etc., do its thing. At the same time, all the data is uploading to Backblaze, which on episode about the backups is in there. So if you need to know about Backblaze, hit up that episode. And then once the previews are loaded, I disconnect the drive that the images live on and the SD card, and I start culling my face off. Then once I cull, I choose the blog images and the photos that are going to go to the client. And then I export the blog, post the blog on WordPress, whatever. No watermarks for me. I do resize the images for the blog. It just depends on what your blog width is. And it also depends on do you care about Retina screens or not. So iPhone screens or Mac screens. And so those blog ones go to the blog and they're totally fine. And then what I do is I'll go back and edit all of the ones that are going to be delivered, usually based off the blog ones, if that can work. But the blog ones are kind of like my pillars of what that wedding is going to look like overall. And then when I'm done, I export full resolution, believe it or not, JPEGs, and then I put it all on shootproof. I organize it into albums and send that link to my couples, and yeah, good to go. One thing to note, if you are finding it hard to upload full resolution images or upload those finished images to a jump drive or something like that you're giving your clients, there's a program called JPEG Mini Pro, and they have a mini version. It's fine, but JPEG Mini Pro is a little bit better if you have a multi-core computer. Getting a little bit nerdy. I love JPEG Mini. It's awesome. It's like magic. It like sucks the fat out of images without changing how they look. Like you literally could never know. They can print them 20 by 30, even bigger. I don't know how they do it, but they do it somehow. And so, yeah, it's amazing. JPEG Mini is linked in the show notes as well as Backblaze and shootproof. Next question is, what is your most used / favorite lens? You can usually tell by looking at my work what is going to be my favorite, and it's the 35mm 1.4 by Nikon. When I used to shoot Canon, it was the L. And so, yeah, 35mm is where I live. It's a little bit challenging to make fun compositions that way, at least for me in my vibe. But that is where I live, is in 35. And then probably second place is like 58mm. I do like that lens a lot too. And the last question from Jessica is, what are some additional apps or programs that you use other than Lightroom or Photoshop that you really find helpful or that you use frequently? So for me, Photo Mechanic that everybody talks about, Photo Mechanic is great just for culling. You know, if you do stars or colors, it's it reads the JPEG preview that's stored inside of RAW files, so it can read really quickly and you can cull really quickly. It's pretty awesome. Also, if you import multiple cards, like 2, 3, 4 cards after a wedding day, that program will check the folder that you've uploaded to or imported to versus what's on the cards and like check to make sure that you've gotten everything, which Lightroom and even Finder for Mac or Windows Explorer don't do. So that's really useful and really helpful. But don't feel like you need Photo Mechanic if you know, hey, I shot 1,000 photos. There's 1,000 photos in Lightroom. Great. Like Photo Mechanic is just for really fast workflows. Like a lot of my press friends here in DC use it. Really good. Sorry, that was a long answer. I love Smart Albums for creating albums for my clients. It makes it really easy. All of the layouts are built in and you can shuffle through them really quickly. Smart Albums is baller. JPEG Mini Pro, as we talked about it. I love JPEG Mini. And then honestly, that's essentially what I use. Everything else is kind of personal or fun. I use Evernote for all my note taking, ideas, etc. I use Tave now for my client management system, which is linked in the show notes. These show notes are going to be thick. And then what else do I use? I love Spotify. I use Tweetbot for Twitter. I use Plex for all of my media management, which is kind of dirty and fun. I use Clear as a to-do app. I use Slack to mostly communicate with me and Sarah Hayes, our podcast manager and business manager. And that's it. Those are the apps and stuff I use most of the time, at least on the computer. On my phone, your basic stuff like Instagram, Twitter. I don't have Facebook on my phone because that is a time suck and it will destroy your life. Looking at Facebook all the time just makes you jealous and makes you wish that your life was better. And we don't need that. It's literally like looking at models all the time and wishing your body was like that. And so, yeah, I don't need that in my life. Sorry to get a little preachy on the end of a question about gear and apps, but here we are. Bethany asked a really good question. She said, how do you stay focused on staying true to yourself and your style during wedding planning? So she's coming at it from a couple's perspective. And so for me, honestly, I tell all my couples, just think about who you are and know your why. Just as business owners, know our whys for why we do what we do when it comes to our business. You need to know why you're making a certain wedding decision. Like, why are you having pink napkins? Why does everybody have flowers? My wife and I, our bridesmaids didn't have flowers. They had $10 lanterns from Target and some little twinkly lights inside. Probably like $12 total each. Whereas a lot of bouquets cost $100 each, maybe even more. The brides bouquets in DC can go from like $300 to $1,000. So just ask yourself why. Why should I dance with my dad? Why should my husband dance with his mom? Obviously, those relationships at one time were very important. And not to say that they aren't now, but those are different for every couple. What about the couple where they feel a little awkward with their parent? Or maybe they have kind of grown apart. That's not going to be the best tradition for them. Cutting the cake. Why do we cut cake? My wife and I, we had milkshakes because our first date was over milkshakes. And we were like, why not? That'd be really cool. So we did a milkshake toast. A lot of couples do pie or donuts. And those are all like, those are the easy ones to kind of like run down the list and be like, why do we need to do this? But really, like, just feel it out and know why. So some more examples are a lot of my couples get ready together nowadays. Many of my couples don't have wedding parties. Some of my couples are a little bit older. Just plan the day that you want to plan and to have fun. Like, so many of my couples just want to party and hang out. And so they'll usually say, Adam, we want some awesome portraits. We're going to have a little tiny ceremony, and then we want to go crazy. And I say, that sounds great. Let's do that. So those are some tips and hopefully some examples that I can give to like, just stay true to yourself. Just ask yourself why. Why am I doing this? And that is going to be the best question. And for the next question, Allison asked, how do you improve SEO when you move to a new town? Any tips for moving up the list? So one, you need to listen to Dylan Howell's episode. I think it's number 35. That is the SEO episode for Bearded Tog right now. Like, it is one of the most played episodes ever now because it is just getting so much traction. And seriously, like, you need to listen to the episode first, Allison, and then anybody who cares about SEO, listen to that, know how it works. And yeah, I would say make sure your content aligns with the new town. So rather than saying something like, Philadelphia engagement session, maybe use something that's universal. So that shoot could still be in Philadelphia, but maybe you do something like urban chic engagement session. That way it's a universal kind of title, so you don't have to take it down per se or trim it. But at the same time, you're still showing work that you've done and can hopefully find something else. And then the other thing, wherever you're moving to, go shoot as much as possible. Like do style shoots, or, style shoots for an engagement session is essentially just, hey, can you wear some nice stuff and let me do whatever I want photo wise, and go shoot in all the locations that you want to be shot for. I would research what are the most popular locations to shoot in that area. And then also that's an idea for a good blog post, like engagement session location ideas in X town. You're welcome, everybody. Go write that. Like you already have photos from that, most likely if you already live in that town. But if you don't, go find out what those are, nail those. Hopefully that helps, Allison. My buddy District Ninja slid into my DMs and asked this question. Sorry, I guess all of you slid into the DMs. That's weird. Anyway, so he asked, how are you able to make sure your clients and subjects feel comfortable and confident? I did my first photo shoot, which was a maternity shoot this past weekend. And at the beginning, I felt like the mom was a little shy and I didn't have a clue to make her comfortable. So firstly, I would just tell them up front, every couple or person you photograph, hey, this is going to feel weird for the first few minutes. Everybody has not had their photo taken before. Like, that's why models are models. Models are models not because just what they look like, because they know what they're going to do with the camera, or at least they have an idea, whereas the average person, or somebody who works a 9 to 5 or a mom, they're not going to know. And it's your decision too, to make sure that they're not thinking they should do something else. It's your job to set the direction and the tone of what's going to happen, whether you're laid back and chill and kind of like, hey, just, love on your stomach if you're maternity shoot, or love on each other or whatever. Or if you want to get in the nitty gritty and be like, no, put your hand here, you put your face like this. Like, you set the direction and the tone of the shoot. And people ultimately, this is the biggest thing. People want to feel cared for and comfortable, and you have to show them that you have a plan and that you're going to take them through a journey, whether that's 30 minutes, 1 hour, and say, here's how things are going to go. Here's how it normally feels. And by the end of the shoot, oftentimes I find this, I want to go shoot with them again, my couples, because they feel so much more comfortable by the end. I'm like, dang it, and it's just a sign for me to do a better job. And I think that is going to be the key for you, is just to have a plan, be intentional, and, be the expert. A plumber's not going to come to your house and say, hey, so how do I fix this? They're going to have a plan. They're going to tell you what they need to do. They're going to shut the water off, etc. So just know what you're going to do and have a plan for that. Okay. Thanks, District Ninja, for asking that question. That was awesome. Former Bearded Tog guest and just awesome guy, Carl Nard, asked this question. What are the best suggestions for increasing your marketing reach while staying organic in your approach? That is such a tough question. How do you not sell your soul, but still try to get more eyes on your work? And here's the way that I always suggest. If you listen to this podcast at all, you know the deal is I would shoot a lot of stuff for free. I would shoot things that look like the paid clients that you want to shoot for. I would invest in those photo sessions. If you get a hire model or a makeup artist, do whatever you can to shoot a fake project as if it was for Nike or some big brand or something like that, and start with the best work. Start with the good work. Show that awesome work. Also, too, a lot of times for big brands and the things you want to shoot for, you can't show it because of NDA, and so you can't use social media even in the organic way to get those other clients. And so, yeah, but if you have full control, then you can do that. And so that would be my first suggestion. My second thing would just be as casually as possible, cold calling, cold emailing, try to get your face and your work in front of the right people, but do it in a kind of a nice way. Don't expect it on the first time you hang out with somebody, kind of bring it up in the second or third, and don't be facetious, but if you're at a networking event with somebody, just introduce yourself, say hi, be a good conversationalist first, and then kind of take the next step, let them find your stuff, and hopefully it works out. I feel like I need a sound effect to go in between the questions. So, but we do not have that because it is a one-man show and this is how it is. But anyway, Elizabeth Hope asks this question. She said, I would love a discussion on transitioning from hobby to professional. I keep seeing photographers encouraging other photographers to file an LLC right away and go the professional route. But when I've talked to business professionals, they've encouraged paying taxes on income, of course, but filing as a hobbyist and not as a business until income is significant enough and the market in the area has been tested and proves to be sustainable. So that was a mouthful. Essentially, she's just asking, hey, you're starting out, you have a hobby. How do I file? What do I need to do? Everybody's saying you do an LLC. Here's what I would say. Everything you do as a business is to prevent a worst case scenario of the IRS, or depending on what the country you live in, the people who manage the money and the taxes, is to prevent them from needing to, find out about something. Or like, I'm not a professional, CPA by any means, but the goal is to not break the law. Simple as that. Like, you don't want to prove something was business, even though it wasn't, or vice versa. And so here's what I tell anybody. Even if you just shot for $1,000 once a year, have a record of your mileage there, any gear you bought, etc. Like, make sure it's only for that. And then at the same time, like, do you use your gear for personal? And not that you need to have 2 sets of gear, but that's just kind of the mindset, is that you need to know what's business, what's personal. And then I'm not an LLC. I'm a sole proprietorship, but I also have insurance. And so that's kind of the route that I've gone based on the advice that I was given. And so, talk to H&R Block, talk to an accountant, talk to a CPA, like, just figure it out. But if you are not planning to be a business and it's not something you want to take on yet, then I would honestly just don't charge for a while, like, don't put yourself in that situation where it could be funky or crazy. So hope that helps, Elizabeth. One of my grooms, who's super cool, Greg, he plays guitar. I play guitar. We're buddies. I love him. He's awesome. He said, at what point do you make the leap to go full time with your new business? Especially if it's not photography related. And so we talked about this in the Sam Hurd episode a little bit, but honestly, the principles are the same. Is one, you want to make sure that income is coming in and from, this new business. You need to know your numbers. Like, what do you need to do to live the life you currently have? Or could you live below your means? Like, get rid of Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, etc. Like, all of the soft things. And just know at bare minimum what you need to do. And then know how many gigs per year you need to do in order to make that particular dollar amount. I would highly suggest the book Overlap by Sean Wes. It is all about overlapping. So you keep your 9 to 5, and then slowly over time, your business moves over that, and then you slowly leave the 9 to 5. So hopefully that makes sense. We could definitely do a mentoring session if we want to dive deeper and kind of come up with a plan. For all my mentees, we usually come up with like a 1 month to 2 month plan of what to do next, an action plan, because that's what we all need. We just need like a workout buddy to say, hey, here's what you need to do. But that's where I would start. So thanks, Greg, for asking the question. My buddy Eric went into the DMs and asked us on Instagram. He said, when can I third shoot / assist you at a wedding? I know that is a loaded question. Here's my dilemma. I've second shot 7 times and I'm pursuing more second shooter gigs. Maybe I'm complaining and wanting things to move faster, but I'm just not getting enough out of these gigs. Most of the people I'm second shooting for don't have much experience, or at least that's what it seems like to me. I know I have tons to learn, but I want to learn from somebody who knows what they're doing. Please advise. So Eric, here's what I would say, and we kind of talked about this in our Instagram DM, but one, all of my mentees have an opportunity to shoot with me at a wedding of their choice. And so we just kind of find the right date, find the right wedding, or the right shoot. They can come on once they've completed one mentor session. I just do that to kind of make sure that we're on the same page and that they're ready to learn, because on wedding day, it can be kind of like drinking from a fire hose. And at the same time, that they're going to be comfortable with my clients and not just be in that situation, for fully learning, because we also have to be serving at that time. And so that makes it a little bit easier to come along. And obviously the couple has to give permission. And yeah, so that'll be my first thing. Secondly, you've only second shot 7 times. Double that, man. Like, put in the work. It is not going to come as fast as you want. Also, too, are you asking these photographers you're working with questions? Like, are you being too prideful about, do you think you could do something better than them? Like, you have to just figure out, where you're going to be. And also too, like, recognize that they might know something you don't, or maybe they're not the best photographer, but they're an incredible business person, or vice versa. Like, ask the questions and know what you need to know. They always say that an expert knows what they don't know. And when you're starting out, you assume that you don't know everything, but you only know what you know. And you just have to be aware. Like, I bet there's something you could have gleaned from all 7 of those particular weddings. Because one, they booked it. And so that's going to have some experience in general in that. So definitely keep second shooting, like 40, 50 times. That's what that whole second shooting episode is about. Earlier in the podcast it's about going full time second shooting if you want. If you're not getting enough out of it, what are you doing? Are you creating images for your portfolio? Are you creating solid images? Are you creating awesome work that you can show people and say, hey, hire me as the main person? Like, could you handle a wedding by yourself? That's the simple question. That's the sign. So yeah, sorry to get a little bit of harsh Adam on there, but that's how we're rolling. Second to last question from my good friend Naomi. She says, how do you get your images so crazy sharp while still having good depth of field in bokeh? I shoot Canon bodies and lenses, as well as Tamron and Sigma, and I'm curious if the gear you use or post-processing technique or combo is what makes this all happen. So here's the deal, Naomi. 1, obviously practice. It's going to be the big deal. 2, make sure stuff's in focus. Like, I shoot wide open, but you're only going to see photos that are like definitely in focus. Thirdly, it's just the compression mindset. So like, if you watch a 1080p video on a 720p screen, that video is going to look a little bit sharper in general, just because of the downsizing. So like on Instagram, a lot of my photos look great. I'm just being honest. Like, that's how all of us are going to look. That's the name of the game with Instagram, is that everybody's photos look really sharp and magical on Instagram. If it doesn't look good on your phone, then it's not sharp and it's not in focus. So 1, I would practice, make sure you're good to go. I would also make sure that you've calibrated your lenses and your body to each other. So lens calibration is pretty easy, but time consuming, takes a lot of practice, and it's going to feel like you're doing it wrong every time. But I'll definitely make sure you calibrate your lenses, especially any new ones that come into the family, because some of your lenses are going to match up better than others from the factory. And there's a level of tolerance that Canon, Nikons, Sigma, Fuji, etc. all have to where they'll let the particular lens or body out of the factory. And so you have to make sure that you're calibrated. I would also make sure you know your autofocus settings, make sure you're good to go there. And, like when you're using flash, it's okay to use the little blinky red lights, like the autofocus assist illuminator, if you will, the one on the camera or the one in the flash. Like, if you can get it to be not awkward, depending on what you need, that's what I would do there. So hopefully that helps, Naomi. Also, always welcome to book a mentoring session. This is not an ad for mentoring sessions, but I mean, for the cost of having all of your images be sharp for the rest of your career, it's not bad. It's cheaper than a lens. So that's where I'm going with that one. Thanks, Naomi, for that awesome question. Last question comes from a guy who has the same initials as me, Adam McGuffey. He was a groomsman in my wedding. He was my roommate in college, and now he's a budding photographer as well. And he is a new dad. So I am just going to shout him out, find him on Instagram and tell him congrats, because his kid is awesome looking and his wife killed it. So it was mostly her work, but seriously, he's an awesome guy. Anyway, he has the questions that I get all the time. He asked, would you be open to creating a space for everyone to share their own presets with each other, or you share your presets with us? My answer is no. I am not the preset guy. I don't have any plans to sell my presets right now. I don't have any products other than mentorship, which Adam ironically has done. But we didn't talk about editing or anything like that at the time, which he should have asked me. We talked about business, and he's killing it. So, with his own presets, with his own looks. And so, it doesn't really matter what your images look like to a T. Like, his images don't have to look like mine for him to have a successful business. And I think that's important for people to know. Like, your images don't have to look like Phil Chester or somebody like that, or Ben Sasso. Like, your images just have to look high quality for you to make money. And so, yeah, I don't have a preset. I always tell people, just like, comes with practice, build your own preset, figure out what you need to know. Some things aren't going to work in every situation. You might have like your gray day portrait preset. You might have like a black and white that you like. You know, it really just takes some experimenting and diving into the develop module of Lightroom and playing around, having fun, looking at images and trying to recreate them. Like it's going to take time. That was it. So that was our very first Ask Me Anything episode, guys. Please say hi on Instagram. Instagram is at the Bearded Tog. That's where I ask the most questions. That's where we gather these questions for AMA. That's where I go on live all the time. And we do Ask Me Anythings there as well. And we just kind of jam out on certain topics. So definitely go follow me there and say hi. Let me know what you thought of the episode or if I need to expound on anything. And we'll put it in the next episode. So thank you so much for everything, guys. Keep being awesome.